How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we got a story time of a teacher destroying a spoiled rich kid who's acting super entitled and super obnoxious. You know, shout out teacher, W teacher. The spoiled rich kid tries to get his grandfather, who the school is literally named after, to get the teacher to be fired. But thankfully the story ends pretty well. I'm not going to reveal it, but yeah, I know you'll enjoy it today. So sit back, relax, subscribe if you're new, leave a like in the video to claim your free nothing. And with that all being said, let's jump right into it. So we're going to call a subscriber who submitted this story Brandon. So anyways, right, Brandon went to school with this kid. We're going to call him the spoiled kid. And this kid was extremely spoiled, and he was extremely entitled. And one of the main driving factors was this kid knew that the school basically was at the whim of his grandfather. So his grandfather founded some crazy empire or whatever, right? He was like the #1 steel manufacturer in this state or something. I don't know, something like that. And so, yeah, sure enough, the school is actually named after his grandfather because his grandfather, donated all this stuff to make the school really cool or whatever. And his grandfather still has a somewhat active role. I know in these situations, sometimes it's like someone donates a ton of money and then all of a sudden, then they just kind of let it go and they don't even show up to the school anymore. That was not the situation here. The grandfather was still pretty active. I think he was a member of the board. He would come and inspect the school. He would take visits, whatever. He was always planning on giving a little bit more money, whatever. So yeah, the spoiled kid's grandfather is still a pretty active member. And yeah, so for that reason, the spoiled kid kind of thought he could do whatever he wanted because unfortunately, it was kind of true. Well, it was at least kind of true in the sense that a lot of teachers were basically scared of the spoiled kid because they realized, or at least if they didn't realize right away, they learned pretty soon from other teachers talking about it, that the spoiled kid's last name was not a coincidence. It was not a coincidence that the school, every building at the school, had the last name of the spoiled kid. So yeah, the spoiled kid for that reason and a lot of other reasons kind of just became a massive bully jerk entitled kid who, there was literally situations, the subscriber was telling me that there were situations where, this kid would legitimately just request a better grade and the teacher would be like, oh yeah, you know what? Let me check my grades again. Oh, actually you did better. These teachers were genuinely super scared of this kid because in all fairness, this kid's grandfather, as I was explaining, was a pretty active member and they were really afraid that, that he would have the ability to get them fired, which in all reality, the way that the school kind of depended on this guy, they probably would take the L and fire a teacher if it meant to keep this guy happy, which is a very questionable power dynamic in my opinion, but we're not going to get into that. So the subscriber comes from a slightly lower income demographic. So instead of so not very super broke, but definitely living a lot closer to paycheck. Not exactly paycheck to paycheck, but essentially. So basically everything's paid is what the subscriber put it like this. He's never he's never gone hungry. He's always had lights, he's always had a roof over his head. He's always had heating in the winter. So he's always had the necessities, but literally nothing beyond that. That is the bare minimum. So yeah, a lot of times the subscriber will sometimes have to wear the same clothes a couple days in a row, right? Sometimes these things will happen. Sometimes he will have kind of outdated stuff, right? So yeah, this all happens one day when the subscriber's in class. So the subscriber had worn the same, sweatshirt 3 days in a row. He doesn't have a lot of sweatshirts, man. He might just have one. And it was cold, so he wore the sweatshirt. And he had a computer because a lot of kids brought computers into class. It made life a little easier and you could also kind of go on it. And the subscriber had a real old computer, right? It was really old, right? It was pretty ancient. But at the subscriber's income level, that was literally all he could have. So the spoiled kid one day, and remember, this kid is super entitled and also feels like he can say or do whatever he wants. So one day, the spoiled kid is sitting next to the subscriber. And I think the spoiled kid was bored or just wanted to feel better. He just wanted to feel better about himself. And guys, let me just say something. Whenever you make fun of someone and you temporarily feel better about yourself, long term, you're going to feel worse about yourself. You will be more at peace if you don't do that. It's a really hard thing to not do. I struggle with it all the time, but it's something I've been consciously trying to change. In my videos recently, I've been trying to give a little piece of wisdom that I picked up from other people just to make my videos a little more valuable to you guys. Anyways, right? So sure enough, the spoiled kid one day is just sitting down next to the subscriber, and he looks over at the subscriber. He's like, dude, like, and they're both, okay, also, they're both sitting in the front row so the teacher can hear all this. He's like, dude, like, kind of wearing the same thing, like, a lot. Like, what's the problem? Do you not have anything else? And, like, that was legitimately the problem. He just didn't have anything else. So the subscriber was like, nah, man, I just like the sweatshirt. Like, what's it to you, bro? Like, I just like the sweatshirt. Like, it's not a big deal. And the spoiled kid's like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm also looking at that computer right now. Dang, I think my grandmother has a newer computer. I think that might have been the first computer ever made by the looks of it. Like, dang, man, you're real broke. And just like, I don't know, like I've definitely heard like spoiled kids say like offhand comments about like stuff and either not be intentional, just like be in such their own bubble, such their own world that they don't realize, oh, what do you mean you can't afford a 7,000 vacation to the Bahamas with all the best resorts? What? Like, huh? Your father doesn't give you $20 billion a week? Like I've heard stuff like that. That's like unintentional, but like just like, bro, like what world do you live in? But I've also heard kind of like intentional snide remarks, but I've never ever heard someone be super blatant, be like, oh, lol, you're poor, lol, lol. Like I've never heard it be that blatant. People have definitely basically said that. Like they've basically said that, but I've never heard them say that exactly. So yeah, the subscriber is pretty shocked. He's pretty taken aback. He just didn't see that coming. Like he definitely like felt like, okay, this kid's gonna say some snide remarks about the fact that I don't have the newest X or the newest Y. Like the subscriber knew that the spoiled kid was gonna be super like a jerk about it, but he just did not see that coming, right? And like the teacher was like filing some paperwork or whatever at their desk before starting the lecture. And like the subscriber noticed in his peripheral that after the spoiled kid said, "Lol, you're poor" type thing, right? That he literally stopped his paperwork. I think the teacher was like kind of listening into the conversation, right? I think he heard the other kind of snide remarks the spoiled kid made. And I bet the teacher would have let those slide. Definitely not like, I don't know, like approving of those comments, but it's just like, they could have been unintentional. They could have meant something else. Sure, they were pretty, like, they were very obviously a jerk comment to make. But the teacher really stopped doing what they were doing when the spoiled kid was like, oh, you're so poor, lol. Like, just something just so stupid like that. So the teacher stops what they're doing. And this, the subscriber's like, all right, man, like, what's it to you? And the spoiled kid's like, oh, I'm just making a little small talk right now. Like, bro's really just saying, I'm making small talk. And by small talk, I mean, I'm calling you poor. Like, damn, bro. I don't know what your definition of small talk is, but I know for a fact my definition is a little bit different. Yeah, I don't know about you, but when I'm trying to like, talk to people, I might say something about the weather. I might ask what their major is. I might talk about like, oh, what classes are you taking? I might ask about their passions. I'm not going to be like, looking real poor today. It's just it's just so out of pocket, bro. So yeah, the subscriber, he just doesn't want to start anything. He's got so much to worry about already. He's got so much on his plate. The subscriber's like, all right, man, like, whatever. Like, it's like, okay, I'm looking poor today. Cool. Like, okay. And that's when the teacher kind of like pipes up and was like, did I hear you right, spoiled kid? Like, I don't mean to pry, but did you just call this like your fellow classmate poor? And the spoiled kid's like, well, I mean, he is looking kind of poor today. You can't say that's not true, man. So the spoiled kid basically doubles down on calling this kid poor. Yeah, so yeah, sure enough, the spoiled kid, he doubles down on it, bro. And the teacher is just kind of shocked, and I think the subscriber's a little shocked too. Like, wow, the spoiled kid actually just doubled down on calling me poor AF today. Like, I mean, it's not like I'm that surprised, but at the same time, like, damn, bro, I didn't know you're gonna be that out of pot. I didn't know you're gonna be that mask off. Like, I realize like you're a jerk, but you just have no shame. It's like the subscriber's like, I low-key kind of respect the honesty, but still. So yeah, the teacher was not having it though. The teacher's like, I'm gonna give you an opportunity to apologize to your classmate, and we move on from here. I don't think the teacher wanted anything to start from this, but at the same time, I don't think the teacher was going to allow the spoiled kid to do this, right? And the spoiled kid's like, "What? Apologize for what, bro? I'm just making an observation, like free speech, bro." So yeah, sure enough, right, the spoiled kid is just basically telling the teacher, apologize for what? Like, what are you gonna do about it, bro? Like, look, the thing is, while the spoiled kid at this point hasn't blatantly said, my grandfather, like, owns the school, basically, so are you really about to, like, come after me? But the spoiled kid is basically implying it with what he's saying, and I think the teacher knows that the spoiled kid is basically implying it. So yeah, sure enough, the subscriber's just very awkwardly sitting there because I think the subscriber would have just preferred I think the subscriber's like thinks it's cool the teacher's coming at like standing up for him, but it's just so awkward right now. So yeah, sure enough, he's just kind of just sitting there, and the teacher like has said I'm giving you one shot, like I'm giving you a chance to apologize. Like the teacher's being straight up just like, look, I'm giving you the opportunity to come out of this, like, you apologize, we both go our different directions, and life's good, man. Like, it's that easy. But you got to remember, this is the spoiled kid, and he's not going to let, an opportunity to be a jerk get away from him. So while the teacher's given him an opportunity to just kind of like say, I'm sorry and move on, which kind of sounds like, the good idea, kind of sounds like kind of the, I don't know, honorable thing to do. But don't forget, this is the spoiled kid. That is not in his nature. So yeah, sure enough, right, the spoiled kid is like, I'm not apologizing for anything, man. And the teacher's like, well, we're going to have a problem then. The teacher says, I don't know. I mean, I think the teacher has known about this kid for a while. I think the teacher definitely knows, like, the teacher definitely knows the position this kid's in, right? And I think the teacher's just kind of upset. So the spoiled kid's like, you know what? If I say something, it goes. And you know why? I don't even need to say why. You already know. And the spoiled kid has this nice old smug look on his face. And the teacher's just looking at him. And the spoiled kid's like, you know what? The subscriber does look poor today. I'm going to say it again. I mean, look, he's worn the same sweatshirt for 3 days in a row. He does look quite poor. And look at that computer. I think my grandmother was born the day that computer came out. Yeah. And at this point, the teacher's like, just like, I don't know, starting to get like more and more upset. And at this point, most of the class is filed in. And a lot of them are starting to listen to this conversation. A lot of them are starting to like listen in to what's being said. And the spoiled kid, I think, is noticing this. I think the spoiled kid at this point realizes that he has the crowd. Or he doesn't have the crowd in the sense that he has the crowd advantage, like people are rooting for him. I don't think a single person does. But he at least has the crowd's attention. He's like, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Like, I just called your student poor because he is. What are you going to do? Like, you can't, and we both know why. And he has this, like, big old smug look on his face, right? And the teacher's, like, very obviously, like, calculating in their head, okay, do I blow up on this kid? It's probably going to have negative consequences, but let's see. So at this point, the teacher realizes that everyone's watching. It would have been a totally different situation if, like, not everyone was paying attention, but everyone was paying attention. So the teacher basically had to more or less... It would have been different if it was just the subscriber and just the spoiled kid and the teacher. But now, the spoiled kid basically was calling the teacher's bluff. Because he's like, I know my grandfather runs the school. Right? Like, good luck, bro. Yeah. So sure enough, the teacher is like, spoiled kid, why would you say that about, your classmate? And the subscriber's like, dude, stop dragging this out in his head. And then sure enough, the teacher's like, why would you say that? And the spoiled kid's like, well, I was just making an observation, bro. Am I not allowed to make observations? And the teacher's like, no, of course. Of course you can make observations. But I'm going to make an observation about you. And this is where things start to get real interesting. So yeah, real quick though, before we go into the teacher absolutely roasting the spoiled kid, if you made it this far into the video, go ahead and comment teacher down below. Comment W teacher. That will be the secret word of the day, or I guess the secret phrase if we're doing W teacher. If you're on Spotify, do the same in the Spotify comment section. And if you're on YouTube, make sure to check out the pinned comment on this video, as there's a link to the Spotify, which I would love it if you guys could follow me on there. And if you use Spotify, go ahead to listen to me on Spotify as well. And also, I'm trying something out. If you guys could all, if you want to try this out and help me, just try a little experiment. Go ahead and click add to watch later on this video. Put in the watch later playlist. I think that actually boosts it long term. So yeah, we'll see if that works. And anyways, let's get back to the story and see exactly how the teachers about to roast the spoiled kid. Oh yeah. So the teacher's like, if you can make an observation about your classmate, then I can make an observation about you. And the whole class is like paying attention. And the teacher's like, spoiled kid, like, you do not deserve anything that you have. The arrogance you have about you is about the success of someone who is not you. I've never seen anyone work less hard, have less integrity, hold them, and this goes on and on and on. The teacher probably goes a little too far with some of these things, but the teacher is just ripping into this kid, bro. Just going in and in and in and just talking about how, like, you know, he's spineless, how he, like, you know, like all this type of stuff, right? And by the end of it, the spoiled kid was completely shocked. The whole class was dead silent too, because the whole class kind of was aware of the situation of, like, spoiled kid's grandfather runs the show. Like, if you speak out against him, he is going to get you fired. But also the spoiled kid was so shocked, not just because, like, the teacher pulled his bluff, right? Not just because the teacher actually went through with it, which was, like, shocking enough in the first place, but also because he never had anything like that before. No one had ever confronted him on anything, basically. So this was like a first time for the spoiled kid. And the spoiled kid was just taken aback. And so, yeah, the teacher just, after that, pivoted immediately just to being like, all right, well, in class today, we're going to write. So he just goes immediately to the lecture. And the spoiled kid is silent for the rest of the class. However, this does not end here, right? The spoiled kid, not done yet. So yeah, basically, right, the spoiled kid is dead silent for all of class, but here's the thing. It's not over yet, because the spoiled kid is, like, wasn't silent in class because he was having a long reflection of how, like, I don't know, how, like, oh, well, it's a long reflection of maybe I should change my ways. Maybe, maybe I should be a better person. Maybe I should do something with my life. Maybe I shouldn't just ride on the coattails of someone else and, not actually do it. No. The spoiled kid was legitimately just plotting his revenge on the teacher right now. Just plotting his revenge, like, legitimately just, like, sitting there cooking, bro. He was cooking in the worst way possible. So, yeah, immediately when the spoiled kid gets home, he, like, tells his parents about what happened. They're all mad, and they call the grandfather. So the rest of the story is a little bit, like, through the grapevine, in a sense that the subscriber wasn't literally in the room when this happened, but it became such a crazy story that, like, so many people heard about it and all this type of stuff. So take this for a grain of salt for a little bit, but overall the rest of the story is true, but a few details might be a little off. But at the end of the day, the conclusion is true. So basically what ends up happening is the spoiled kid goes to his grandfather, tells him, like, oh, the teacher was super mean to me. I need you to get them fired. And the grandfather, who's very active at the school and basically funds the entire school, is like, okay, like, I'll look into it. Grandfather was going in probably, like, thinking, maybe I'm going to get this teacher fired. I think the grandfather had a bit more honor and respect than everyone else in his family. But so basically what happens is he goes in, and, like, the teacher who had the whole blow up on the kid was called into the office. I think at this point the teacher was basically packing up, preparing to be, like, shipped out of there, being like, yeah, I went against the son or the grandson of the guy who basically funds the school. I'm done. I'm just done for. Like, there's just no point in even staying here anymore, because I just know I'm done, bro. I just know it's time for me to pack up. Maybe get a new job. Maybe choose a new profession at this point. I don't know. The guy might be able to curse me wherever I go. Like, dude, I don't know this guy's power. He might have that ability. Who knows, man? So, yeah, sure enough, right, the teacher is brought into the principal's office or the administrator's office, whatever, and the grandfather was there. I think this is, like, the first time the teacher's ever met the grandfather, like, face-to-face. However, you kind of figure out who it is just by, like, some random grandpa's in there. Nah, it's the guy funding the school, bro. So they go in there. And the teacher basically explains everything that happened and is very straight up and is very candid about all the things that they said. And so the teacher was just expecting that the grandfather was going to come in and basically just be like, oh, you can't say that to my son, all that kind of stuff, which, like, I can kind of understand. You know, it's like, dang, you really called out my son like that, or my grandson like that in class. I can understand that to an extent. However, though, you know, the grandfather, while listening to this, kind of realized who his grandson became. And while he didn't necessarily agree with the fact that the teacher said all of that in class, the grandfather cared a lot more about, you know, the integrity of his son, or his grandson, sorry, than, you know, the teacher really abiding by the rules. So the teacher is dismissed, and the grandfather has a discussion with the staff. Yeah, so anyways, the grandfather, like, is in the room having the teacher with the administration. And here's where I can't say exactly what happened, but based on the results, which is public knowledge, this is more or less what happened. The grandfather probably agreed that the teacher went a little bit too far, but requested that the teacher not get any punishment at all, because he realized his grandson had developed an inflated ego, well, kind of because of him. I mean, it's not like the grandfather went in there and was like, oh, develop an inflated ego, believe you're better than other people. Obviously not. However, what I will say is that the grandfather is aware that because of his, you know, his influence, his money, his status, and basically because he runs the school, that his grandson had developed a sense of entitlement and was really abusing it. It's not like his grandson, like, knew, okay, well, my grandfather has a lot of sway, I'm not going to do anything about it, though. No, his grandson was literally like, I'm going to call people poor and then flex on the teacher that I can do whatever I want and, like, not expect any retaliation. And so when his grandfather was growing up, he had nothing, right? And he learned lessons about the world. He learned lessons about, you know, natural law, like what you sow, you will reap, right? If your actions will have, you know, equal and opposite, like, reactions. And the grandfather kind of saw that his influence, well, at the school was kind of almost negating the natural law, and he didn't want his grandson to lose out on such a great lesson, right? So the grandfather requested that, in fact, the teacher not get any punishment at all and have free reign to do or say whatever to his grandson. So yeah, sure enough, the teacher is instructed to tell the grandson, the spoiled kid, that he must apologize in front of the entire class. Yes, he must write something up and apologize in front of the entire class, or he fails the class sincerely, his grandfather. Yeah, so the spoiled kid does not take this well, is kind of like calling bluff at first, but learns that, you know, once he learns that his grandfather's behind it, realizes that no, the teacher not only will actually fail him if he doesn't do this, but his grandfather, you know, the bluff he was playing of like, oh, my grandfather will help me, his grandfather's now against him, bro. So yeah, the subscriber a couple days later watches as the spoiled kid goes in front of the entire class and apologizes to the subscriber for being disrespectful, apologizes to the teacher for being disrespectful, and apologizes to the entire class for wasting their time. And it's super forced and it doesn't feel genuine, but just the fact the spoiled kid is doing it at all just really shows a lot. If you enjoyed today's story, watch one of the videos on screen right now. It really does help out. Listen on Spotify too, and peace.